Good morning, or evening, or whatever. This is an introduction to Alicante. Alicante is a very, very important part of Bosque Village. It's an area of land. The total size of it, 9 acres. Nah, less. 7? No idea. I need to GPS the limits of it. It lies, I'll describe it to you physically, between the lodge and the view. In fact, it's right next to the lodge. It is destined to become a park. I want a large amount of biodiversity in here, and I also want places for people to sit and fire pits, perhaps some kind of structures near it to serve it, but I want to keep it as natural as possible. Natural being a flexible term in this case, since I'm going to adjust it a lot. I am part of the process that is going to turn it from a forest that is only useful for collecting pine resin into a forest park that people love being in, is productive, produces some food or useful things, and is full of life. Bird baths. Not a lot of wildlife probably, because I'm imagining it as being a fairly high human density area. But not a lot of buildings. It's very protected. One of the most important things is that this gully has a ridge to its north side, a ridge to its south side, and it slopes downward. So what we're doing is on the upper slope, we've cut a road across it, really where it kind of ends naturally. And then we have a fire pit below that. That could all get cleared out in there, and a building could be put there. That's a very centrally located building that will probably have, not exactly a view, but a view of a pretty place. It's a great spot. At the same time, the trail that goes from the mesa over to the Boog general area, or over to Extasis, actually, I think is where it ends up. That particular trail needs to be raised. But I'm almost tempted to say that that's where the building should really be. So that on the west side of the building, there's a dug-in garden there, and people can walk across that road there, and that you have essentially as a footbridge the building that goes across Upper Alicante. Wide as a car, maybe even strong enough so a car could go on it, but it's not for cars. It is a pedestrian walkway to make it much easier to connect from the mesa over to everything over there. Now there's already a road for that, so it's not an emergency, but that's a building that would be really great. That should not get built until after we know how to build buildings correctly with lots of porches, doing full rain capture, etc. If we're going to do a building, let's do it right. We could think of something tinier, and that might be okay too. I mean, what if it was just a single story of room type things, half dug in, mostly dug in, and then 2 raised walkways, or even 1 that was covered. And it could even have polycarbonate on it so that it was comfortable to be under. Who knows? Down here in other parts of Alicante, we've already dug out this area. We put in some wood seats. I don't think anyone's ever sat here. There's no reason to be here. No one's ever had a fire here. That's a general lack of leadership. All of the pines along here can all be removed because it's full of oaks. Those oaks will grow up just as they're growing up elsewhere. And this will be an oak grove, not a pine grove. I have reasons for that. 1, pines fall over in annoying ways. They don't play well with others. I've already gotten rid of a bunch of them here. I've got a cote experiment over here to see if I can make a cote. But all these pines in here, I'm just leaving here as an investment because it's a good building material. And there's baby pines all in here too. But for now, all these pines are coming out. We're leaving that big cool one over there because it's so big and cool. And then I've got some pines down the lower part here. I've left a whole string of them. And that's as a wind block because they are currently the tallest tree. If we had ash trees, they would be as tall. Oak trees are almost as tall and an excellent windbreak, and they don't fall over the same way. Let's get back to the trees and the oaks. The oaks are the real thing that's important here. Look, there's a bird nest in that one. That's cool. I don't know how birds survive in the rain. This pine would stay here because it's got stuff on the sides. What we should do on this one is top it off so that the branches go out further. And we get a little bit of control over the tree. If we were to do the same thing to this one over here and try and cut it midway, it would just die. So we can't top a pine. The oaks, on the other hand, are entirely a sculpting material. They're super strong. You can completely trust their structure. We could even make them like a big bonsai. We could sculpt places to sit and tables, and essentially what we would want to build, instead we should grow. A lot of that has to do with topping off the oak. And that's because naturally the oak is going to get taller. It's going to actually lose its lower branches over time. And we've got this huge oak then, and that's really pretty. That's cool. But I'm talking about topping it off so that it puts its energy into the branches, and those branches are moldable. Now that's going to be a lot of work. Let's not kid ourselves. I've been standing here saying, let's make tree sculptures for years, but it just seems like I'm busy every day. I guess I need to take some leadership on tree sculpting. Here in Alicante, I think the main thing is top them off. Get up there as soon as we can, get a chainsaw and a pole, and start topping off all these oaks. Because there's no shortage of them. This one already got topped off at some point. That's the one with the nest in it. And you notice it just changes how it's growing. I think that the tool we really need is that chainsaw on a stick. Because what I'm ending up with here is oaks that are bigger than I want them to be, which means they're going to put less energy into growing laterally in ways that I wish to sculpt them. And then they're just getting too big. The other tree that's down here is this one. It's the madrone. This is a very young one. This is there's one up there. There's one over there. There's one of that one's really pretty. It's the coolest, sexiest tree you can imagine. I just call it a tree sexy. Damn right. It's got nice curvy wood, and it's got a nice color. There's actually, I think, 4 different species of this thing here. It's a arbutus species. I think there's 4 different types of that or whatever. It's all in the same family. I don't know scientific name stuff. It's arbutus. You can look it up. This is a very important tree because of its cosmetic value. It has medicinal and food value. And it's naturally sculpting itself. It's an inherently pretty tree. When the rain falls on that bark, it's like it's flesh. You could go take pictures of it. I mean sexy. And they're all around here. There's big, mature ones. We don't want to cut any of those. We can sculpt those. And I would recommend that we not try and sculpt them in ways that are useful, because they're not a reliable tree to use as furniture or for a tree house. I think they should just be used as ornamental sculptures, enjoying the beauty that they are, letting many of them, just favoring the most interesting ones. And we could, do some sculpting for cosmetic reasons on them. But the oaks are what we're using as a building material, a living building material. So we're going to favor the oaks. Now I mentioned food. I want food in here. Here's a Himalayan blackberry. Excellent positioning. Unfortunately, right next to a dance floor, but it's happy. That's all that matters. This one was planted in very loose dirt. This dirt got moved out of here by hand with shovels and picks, moved over there to make a large area that we called a dance floor. It can still be a dance floor. And I'm tempted, since there's all these pines growing in here right on the dance floor, I should just get in here with a machete and chop them out of there, shouldn't I? I hope you're listening and understand why what I just said is just absolutely shit. These baby pines all in here are potential living furniture. Now, I've never grown a pine furniture before, but this is an amazing opportunity because they're all lined up along here where we kind of had dug in an earth bench. And they're all quite small. These are These are this is what, half a meter tall? And then there's a madrone over there. This whole area in here, as part of the dance floor, should be a sitting area next to the dance floor. I hesitate to do that and probably want to move the dance floor. It is my belief that there should be no sitting areas right around a dance floor. Why? Because I want participation in the dance, and I want people to get off their asses and move their asses dancing. And I'd rather be at a dance party where everybody else was dancing and nobody was sitting there watching me, because I don't actually want to do a show. So I'd move the dance floor. But in that spot, that's an amazing project. We should mark that off and say, don't touch it, experiment in progress, because somebody is gonna fucking have a machete in their hand and then try and clear that space. It makes sense. We kill things all the time without understanding why. And that's why I'm frightened of having people have machetes. To finish up the tour on Alicante, there's some swings in these pine trees here. More swings in the general area would be certainly very welcome. We need a bathroom which is accessible from the lodge and other places. I would recommend placing it near the lodge, somewhere near where the DJ station type thing is. If this is going to be a common trail, I want access to a toilet in Lower Alicante. And later on, there would of course be one at that crossing on the upper trail. I'm here at that line of pines I mentioned, and I really call this the end of Alicante because the stuff below it, the ravine continues and becomes a highly forested area. There's a flat spot over there called Solsticio that I want to actually totally flatten that, raise this road up, kind of filling in the valley below this. That'll change water flow a lot. Keep that forest there because it divides that from another area. And Solsticio would have a building and all that. That's all separate video. Let's focus on the last part of this before I'm late to the thing I'm supposed to go to. I'm already late. Oh, fuck. I really got to figure out the way a bosque can exist without me having to be places all the time. Because other people, if they don't want to follow any kind of schedule, it is difficult. I think people should have to pay extra for that. Because it's like a disruption. It's a serious disruption. And I just don't want to have a theme park. If people pay enough, that's fine. But I don't want people to get, I don't know. So down here, we've got a trail that goes from the view to the lodge. This is actually an extremely important area right in here. This needs immediate attention. The attention it probably needs is to be flattened. We want a larger flat location here. That's a big problem because there's also a bunch of trees in here, baby trees that I really like. And if I get a bulldozer in here and make a huge flat area, like a plaza, it would be cool. But I don't want to do it. It's too far along in how beautiful it is. Now, if I was going to clear Solsticio out and fill in that area, I'd use a bulldozer. But right in here, I want to make this a super pretty location, and that's going to be hand dug. There's no other choice. We can use tools if we want. I don't know if there's any tools worth it. I think pickaxes and shovels are probably the way to go. What I want to do is dig all the dirt down that I can and move it down slope. Create wide spots however I can. The trail here needs to all be one level. Beyond that, I don't know. Somehow, no more slope spots because it's simply not as useful. It's a high traffic area. Imagine it's like a plaza in a sense, but really I don't know how it'll end up. We just dig around the trees won't die. If a tree does die, it was weak, but it's just all full of oaks in here. We want to leave all those there, clear out all these grasses in here, just flatten the hell out of it anywhere you can where there's plants. Like all these plants are super common. This whole area right in here could be dug out, cleared, dump the dirt over there, kill anything that we don't want, and then plant the stuff that we do. I think this would be a great place for certain kinds of fruit trees. It's a little shady because of the pines, but if we were to plant lots of fruit trees all up Alicante in soft dirt, spots we could fertilize with pea gardens even. Pea gardens, I mean, fruit trees might love those. Carefully sculpting the park and adding the fruit trees. So yeah, that's it. The ridge up there, that's not it, I guess. The ridge on the north side. That could also have flat spots as well. We should mostly leave that alone because it's a different habitat up there. There's different kinds of plants, and so we really want to not ruin it. I think we should even leave, so I could cut down a bunch of pines over there. I mostly don't think we should. I can imagine a hut in one spot on it. The other side of it's really pretty, that's a whole other thing. On the side here closest to the lodge, this is an interesting thing. Let's talk about the south side. That was the north side over there. The south side of this ridge. We've got the lodge right there. Up from that we've got the wood shop. Then we've got Boog and Ecstasis. And there's a toilet near Boog. That's one of the reasons we don't need a toilet at the top as rapidly as at the bottom. One of the reasons is because here at the bottom you have to walk all the way to the studio to use a toilet. So we need a toilet in here. We also need a DJ station. I believe this is an excellent area for a dance party in somewhere. And so that's with the flat spots again. We want to be, thinking about, we can really think about their use later. I think we can think about it later. But just identifying flat spots to create, cutting the hell out of them as soon as possible, and connecting them with sensible trails, thinking about water flow and perhaps having small ponds available. And we can make an amazing space. That's your basic tour of Alicante. I'm heavily caffeinated.